Captain Du Young stood at the window of his office in the Maritime Research Division, looking out at the calm ocean waters of Busan. The morning sun made the waves sparkle like diamonds. He had spent 20 years studying these waters. But today was different. Today, the waters he knew so well would become the center of humanity's biggest adventure. The first sign that something was different came when his coffee cup started to shake. At first, he thought it was another cargo ship passing by, but then he saw it, a massive shadow falling over the research center. The shadow grew larger and darker until it covered not just the building, but the entire port. Du Young's phone rang. "Captain, you need to come to the roof right now," said his assistant. Her voice was shaking. When he reached the roof, he found his entire team already there. They all stood still, heads tilted back, mouths open. Above them, floating in the clear morning sky, was a ship unlike anything humans had ever built. It was silver and smooth, shaped like a giant water drop, and it was bigger than 5 aircraft carriers put together. "Sir," said one of his team members, "all the fish in our research tanks are acting strange. They're swimming in patterns we've never seen before." Before Du Young could answer, a bright blue light shot down from the ship. It wasn't just one beam. Hundreds of light beams were now touching the ocean's surface. The water began to glow where the lights touched it. Then a voice spoke. It came from everywhere, from the air itself. The voice spoke perfect Korean, but it had a strange musical quality to it. "People of Earth," the voice said, "I am Admiral Ha-won of the Galactic Research Fleet. We have come to study your waters." Du Young stepped forward. As the head of Earth's largest marine research center, he knew he should speak. "Welcome to Earth," he said, trying to keep his voice steady. "I am Captain Du Young of the Maritime Research Division." A smaller ship, about the size of a bus, came down from the mothership. It landed softly on the helipad of their building. The door opened with a soft hiss, and out stepped what could only be aliens. They looked almost human, but their skin had a slight blue tint, and their eyes were larger than human eyes. They were dressed in what looked like flowing water made into cloth. Admiral Ha-won was easy to spot. She stood taller than the others and wore a darker uniform. "Captain Du Young," Admiral Ha-won said, walking toward him. "We have visited 1,342 planets with oceans. We thought we had seen everything there was to see in the galaxy's waters." She paused and looked out at the ocean. "But your Earth's waters, they are different. Our initial scans show things that don't make sense to us." Du Young noticed something in her voice. Was it confusion? Maybe even worry. These aliens, with their huge ships and advanced technology, seemed uncertain about something in Earth's oceans. "We would like to work with your team," Admiral Ha-won continued. "We need to understand your oceans. Will you help us?" Du Young looked at his team, then back at the alien admiral. 20 years of studying the ocean had taught him one thing. The sea always had more secrets to share. Now, looking at these visitors from the stars, he had a feeling they were about to discover just how mysterious Earth's waters could be. "We would be honored to help," he said. "When would you like to begin?" Admiral Ha-won's large eyes seemed to shine. "We already have." Above them, more ships were appearing in the sky. The study of Earth's oceans was about to change forever, and Du Young had a front-row seat to what would become the biggest discovery in human history. Research Officer Jae-ho sat in the control room of the alien underwater vessel, his large eyes fixed on the screens in front of him. The vessel was moving deeper into the North Atlantic Ocean, and the water outside was getting darker with each passing minute. Behind him, Captain Du Young watched with interest as the alien technology worked. "On our home planet," Jae-ho explained, "the deepest ocean is only 1 kilometer deep. Most planets we visit have shallow waters." He pointed to one of the screens showing their current depth. "But your oceans, we are already 3 kilometers down, and there is still so much further to go." Du Young nodded. "The average depth of Earth's oceans is about 4 kilometers. Some places are more than 11 kilometers deep." Jai-ho's blue-tinted skin seemed to pale. 11 kilometers. That's impossible. The pressure would be enormous. As if to prove his point, a loud creaking sound filled the vessel. Ji-ho quickly checked the readings on his screens. Strange, he muttered. Our ship's outer shell is starting to feel strain. This shouldn't happen. Our technology is far more advanced than... He stopped talking as another creak echoed through the ship. Maybe we should test the waters at this depth first, Du-young suggested kindly. The ocean isn't going anywhere. Jai-ho agreed, and they launched their first probe. The small device, shaped like a fish, swam away from their vessel. Its lights cut through the dark water, revealing a world the aliens had never imagined. Look at all these life forms, Ji-ho exclaimed. The probe's lights showed strange fish swimming by, some with huge teeth, others that seemed to glow in the dark. How can so many creatures live under such pressure? Du-young smiled. Life on Earth has had millions of years to adapt to these conditions. These fish are perfectly built for this environment. The probe's readings began coming in, and Ji-ho's expression changed from excitement to confusion. This can't be right, he said, tapping the screen. According to these readings, some of these fish are very, very old. Much older than we expected. Before they could investigate further, another alarm went off. Red lights started flashing across the control panel. The probe, Ji-ho shouted. Something very large is approaching it. On the main screen, they watched as a massive shape moved in front of the probe's cameras. The creature was dark gray and moved slowly through the water, but its size was incredible. It was longer than their research vessel. What is that? Jai-ho whispered, his voice filled with awe. That, Du-young said calmly, is just one of the many surprises our oceans have for you. It's a Greenland shark. We don't see them very often at this depth. The shark swam closer to the probe, seeming to study it with one of its small eyes. Ji-ho's instruments were going crazy, trying to analyze the creature. Captain Du-young, Jai-ho said slowly, not taking his eyes off the shark. I think we need to call Admiral Hwan. There's something about this shark, something that defies everything we thought we knew about Earth's marine life. As they watched, more shapes appeared in the darkness behind the first shark. The deep waters of Earth were about to reveal one of their oldest secrets to their visitors from the stars, and nothing in the aliens' vast database had prepared them for what they were about to learn. Admiral Hwan arrived at the underwater research vessel within an hour of Jai-ho's call. The Greenland sharks were still swimming slowly around them, their huge shapes appearing and disappearing in the dark water. Research assistant Yeon-ha, the youngest member of the alien crew, worked quickly at her station, trying to make sense of the readings they were getting from their instruments. These numbers make no sense, Yeon-ha said, shaking her head. She looked up at Admiral Hwan with confused eyes. Admiral, according to our age detection equipment, the smallest shark out there is at least 200 Earth years old. The Admiral moved closer to the screen. Check the equipment again. It must be malfunctioning. I already checked 3 times, Yeon-ha replied. She pointed to a larger shark that was passing right in front of their viewing window. That one there. Our instruments say it's over 400 years old. The room fell silent. Even Captain Du-young, who knew about Greenland sharks, felt a chill run down his spine. He watched the aliens as they tried to process this information. 400 years. Admiral Hwan whispered. That's impossible. No water creature we've ever encountered lives that long. The oldest marine life we found on other worlds barely reaches 50 years. Yeon-ha suddenly sat up straighter in her chair. Admiral, look at this. Her fingers flew over the control panel, and a new image appeared on the main screen. It showed the inside of the shark's eye lens. The proteins in their eyes. They're barely breaking down. It's like time moves differently for these creatures. Du-young stepped forward. The Greenland shark grows extremely slowly, he explained. They grow about 1 centimeter per year. They don't even reach adulthood until they're around 150 years old. Jai-ho, who had been quiet until now, turned to face them. Do you understand what this means? His voice was filled with excitement. That shark out there, it was already old when humans first started building large ships. It was swimming in these waters before electricity was discovered. Admiral Ha-won moved closer to the window. One of the ancient sharks swam past, its small eyes seeming to look right at her. In that moment, she realized that everything they thought they knew about Earth's oceans was wrong. "Ilha," the admiral said, her voice now firm with decision, "I want you to document everything about these creatures. Their movement, their body structure, their DNA, everything. Captain Do Young, would your team be willing to share all your research about these sharks with us?" Do Young nodded. "Of course, but there's something else you should know." He smiled slightly. "The Greenland shark isn't even our oldest sea creature. We have sponges in Antarctica that are thousands of years old." Ilha dropped her datapad. Admiral Ha-won's large eyes grew even wider. Ji-ho made a sound that might have been a gasp. Outside in the dark waters, the ancient sharks continued their slow swim, just as they had done for centuries. They had seen wooden ships replaced by steel ones on the surface above. They had lived through wars, discoveries, and countless human generations. And now, they had helped Earth's oceans earn the respect of beings from across the galaxy. "We need to inform the Galactic Council immediately," Admiral Ha-won said quietly. "Earth's waters aren't primitive at all. They're keeping secrets that could change everything we think we know about life itself." The main conference room of the Maritime Research Division was packed with both humans and aliens. Dr. Sunmai stood at the front, showing pictures and information about the Greenland shark on the large screen behind her. Captain Do Young watched as the alien visitors learned more about these amazing creatures. "The Greenland shark is special for many reasons," Sunmai explained, pointing to a diagram. "They live in very cold, deep waters. The cold and the pressure would kill most creatures, but these sharks have adapted perfectly to these conditions." Admiral Ha-won raised her hand. "But how do they live so long? On our worlds, creatures that live in harsh conditions usually have very short lives." Sunmai smiled and changed the screen to show a close-up of a shark's tissue cells. "That's what makes them so interesting. Their cells age very, very slowly. The cold water helps with this, but they also have special proteins that protect their bodies from damage. They grow only 1 centimeter each year, but they can grow for hundreds of years." Inha, who was taking notes on her alien device, looked up with wide eyes. "So they trade fast growth for a longer life." "Exactly," Sunmai nodded. "Think about this. When Christopher Columbus sailed across the Atlantic Ocean in 1492, some of the Greenland sharks we saw yesterday were already swimming in these waters." The room fell silent. The aliens looked at each other, their blue-tinted skin seeming to shimmer with excitement and disbelief. "There's more," Do Young added, standing up. "These sharks have survived through everything Earth has faced. They lived through the age of wooden ships, through the Industrial Revolution, through 2 world wars. They were here before humans invented electricity, before we built cities, before we even knew what was in our deep oceans." Admiral Ha-won walked to the window, looking out at the ocean. "We were so wrong," she said softly. "We thought Earth's oceans were simple because they weren't like the seas we knew. But they're not simple. They're extraordinary." Jai-ho, who had been quiet, suddenly spoke up. "Admiral, remember the old stories about the first ones who seeded life across the galaxy?" When she nodded, he continued excitedly. What if Earth's oceans are so different because they developed naturally? What if this is what water life looks like when it grows on its own without help?" The implications of this idea made everyone in the room stop and think. If Earth's oceans had developed by themselves, everything the aliens thought they knew about life in the galaxy might be wrong. "Captain Do Young," Admiral Ha-won said, Turning from the window, I need to send a message to my superiors. Earth isn't just another planet with water. Your oceans might be the key to understanding how life begins and survives in the universe. She paused, looking at each person in the room. And these sharks, these amazing, ancient creatures, they're not just fish. They're living history, swimming right beneath our ships. Outside the window, the ocean waves moved gently in the afternoon sun. Somewhere in the deep, dark waters below, the Greenland sharks continued their slow, ancient swim through time, unaware that they had just changed how an entire galaxy thought about life itself. Dr. Sun Mai and research assistant Yunha sat together in the underwater observation dome, watching colorful fish swim by. After 2 weeks of working together, they had become good friends. Today, they were preparing to explore a new area of the ocean where very old creatures lived. I still can't believe what you showed me yesterday, Yunha said, looking at her notes about the Antarctic glass sponges, a sea creature that can live for 15,000 years. That's older than any living thing we found in the entire galaxy. Sun Mi nodded, adjusting their observation equipment. The glass sponges are amazing. They grow so slowly that it takes them hundreds of years just to get as big as my hand. But that slow growth lets them live for thousands of years. Yunha's large eyes sparkled with excitement. On my home planet, we always thought fast growth meant success. Our scientists tried to make everything grow faster. But Earth's creatures, she paused, watching a school of fish dart past the dome. They show us that sometimes slower is better. The two researchers checked their equipment one last time. Today they were going to study deep-sea tube worms that lived near underwater volcanoes. These strange creatures could live for over 250 years in water hot enough to melt metal. Look at these readings, Sun Mai said, pointing to her screen. These tube worms don't even eat like normal animals. They get their food from special bacteria living inside them. The bacteria take chemicals from the hot water and turn them into food. Yunha moved closer to look at the screen. That's so different from anything we know. Our scientists always said life needed sunlight and plants to survive. But these creatures live in complete darkness and don't need plants at all. As they talked, Admiral Hawan entered the dome. She had changed much since their first meeting. Now she wore a small pin on her uniform showing a Greenland shark, and she moved more slowly, as if trying to match the peaceful pace of Earth's ocean life. "How are the studies going?" the Admiral asked, sitting down with them. "Wonderful," Yunha said excitedly. "Dr. Sun Mi just showed me something amazing about coral reefs. Did you know some coral colonies are over 4,000 years old? They're like underwater cities that have lived through all of human history." Admiral Hawan smiled. "Every day we learn something new about Earth's waters. Each discovery shows us how little we really knew." She looked out at the dark ocean waters. "Our people always thought we were advanced because we could travel between stars. But Earth's oceans have been growing and changing for millions of years, creating things we never imagined possible." Sun Mi touched the glass of the dome gently. "The ocean teaches us patience," she said softly. "These creatures don't rush. They take their time, growing slowly, living long, adapting perfectly to their homes." Outside the dome, a large shape moved in the distance, another Greenland shark, swimming slowly through its ancient home. In the dim light, Yunha thought she saw something that looked like wisdom in its small old eye. These creatures had seen empires rise and fall, had lived through countless human generations, and now they were teaching visitors from the stars that true greatness didn't always mean being the fastest or the most advanced. The emergency alarms woke Captain Du Young in the middle of the night. One of the alien research vessels had gone too deep into the ocean trying to collect samples, and now it was stuck. The ship's engines weren't working properly under the intense pressure, and its hull was starting to crack. "How deep are they?" Du Young asked as he rushed into the control room. The screen showed the trapped vessel sitting in almost complete darkness. 8 kilometers down," Jaiho replied, his blue skin looking pale under the emergency lights. They went into a deep ocean trench to study some unusual life forms. Then their engines failed. He pointed to another screen showing the damage to the ship. The pressure at that depth is crushing their hull. We have maybe 2 hours before it breaks. Admiral Howon stood nearby, speaking quickly into her communication device. None of our rescue ships can go that deep, she said, turning to Du-young. Our technology wasn't built for such extreme pressures. We never knew we would need to go so deep. Suddenly, Dr. Sunmai burst into the room. The trapped ship is near a Greenland shark feeding ground, she said, breathing hard from running. Our deep-sea cameras show at least 15 sharks in that area right now. Everyone in the room grew quiet. They had learned to respect these ancient creatures, but being stuck in their feeding ground was dangerous. The sharks were huge, and even though they moved slowly, they were powerful predators. Wait, Yunhe said suddenly. Maybe the sharks aren't a problem. Maybe they're the solution. When everyone turned to look at her, she explained quickly. These sharks have lived in these deep waters for hundreds of years. Their bodies are perfectly adapted to the pressure. If we can understand how they handle the pressure, maybe we can use that knowledge to save our ship. Sun Ni's eyes lit up. She's right. Look at this. She pulled up data about the Greenland shark's body structure on the main screen. Their skin, their blood vessels, even their bones, everything about them is built to work perfectly under extreme pressure. Du-young and Admiral Howon looked at the data together. If we adjust our rescue ship's force fields to copy how the sharks handle pressure, the Admiral began, we might be able to reach the trapped vessel. Du-young finished. They worked quickly, using what they knew about the Greenland sharks to modify their rescue equipment. As they made the changes, the deep-sea cameras showed something amazing. The sharks were swimming calmly around the trapped vessel, almost as if they were guarding it. Look at how they move through the pressure, Yunhe said softly. They make it look so easy. These creatures have been doing this for millions of years. We were so proud of our advanced technology, but in these deep waters, Earth's ancient sharks are the true masters. Time was running out for the trapped crew. But as they launched the modified rescue ship, there was hope. They had learned that sometimes the best solution to a problem wasn't to fight against nature, but to learn from it. The Greenland sharks, which had seemed so primitive at first, were teaching them how to survive in one of Earth's most extreme environments. 3 days after the successful rescue of the trapped vessel, Admiral Howon stood before the combined crews of both human and alien research teams. The large meeting room was filled with the soft sound of waves from the nearby ocean. Through the windows, the morning sun made the water sparkle. When we first came to Earth, Admiral Howon began, her voice carrying clearly through the room. We thought we knew everything about ocean life. We were wrong. She touched the Greenland shark pin on her uniform. Your oceans have taught us that true advancement isn't about moving fast or having the newest technology. She walked to the front screen, which showed pictures from their rescue mission. The images showed the Greenland sharks swimming calmly around their rescue vessel, guiding them through the deep waters. These creatures, she continued, pointing to the sharks, have survived on Earth for millions of years. They lived through ice ages. They saw the first humans build boats and cities. They watched our ships arrive from space. And now, they have helped save the lives of beings from another world. Dr. Sunma stepped forward with new research data. The rescue taught us something amazing, she explained. The Greenland sharks didn't attack our trapped vessel because they recognized it as something alive. These ancient creatures have a kind of wisdom we're just beginning to understand. Captain Du-young added, the sharks showed us how to survive in the deep ocean. By copying how their bodies handle pressure, we made our ships stronger. Sometimes the best teacher is the one that's been doing something successfully for the longest time. Research Officer Jaiho, who had been quiet until now, stood up. I've sent a full report to our Science Council, he said. I told them that Earth's oceans aren't primitive at all. They're perfect. Every creature here, from the smallest plankton to the oldest shark, has found exactly the right way to live. Enha, who had helped create the rescue plan, shared her computer readings. "Look at these numbers," she said excitedly. "The Greenland sharks' bodies are so perfectly adapted to deep water that they use almost no energy to swim. They don't fight against the ocean. They work with it. That's why they can live for hundreds of years." Admiral Hawan nodded and faced the group again. "From this day forward, Earth's oceans will be marked in our star maps as a special place, not just a planet with water, but a world where life found its own path to greatness. The Greenland sharks and all your amazing sea creatures will be studied and protected as galactic treasures." She paused, looking out at the ocean. "We came here thinking we would study a primitive world. Instead, we found wisdom that's been growing in these waters for millions of years. The Greenland sharks taught us that sometimes the quietest, slowest path is the one that leads to the most amazing discoveries." Outside, the waves continued their endless dance with the shore, hiding beneath them secrets that had taken millions of years to perfect. The aliens had learned that true wisdom often comes not from racing forward, but from the patient, ancient rhythms of Earth's remarkable oceans. 1 year had passed since the aliens first arrived on Earth. The morning sun shone on the new Joint Research Center built along the coast of Greenland. Inside, Yunha had decided to stay behind as the alien representative while the main fleet continued their galaxy-wide studies. She worked closely with Dr. Sunbai, tracking and studying Earth's remarkable ocean life. Today was special. Their underwater sensors had found something extraordinary. A Greenland shark that might be one of the oldest ever discovered. The two researchers sat in their observation vessel, slowly moving through the dark waters where the ancient shark lived. "According to our calculations," Sunmai said softly, checking her instruments, "this shark was born around 1600. That was when humans first started using telescopes to look at the stars." She smiled at the thought. It was swimming in these waters before we even knew other planets existed. Yunha nodded, her large eyes fixed on the darkness ahead. "And now it's helping beings from those planets understand life itself." She adjusted their ship's lights, keeping them dim to avoid disturbing the ocean life. "Everything we thought we knew about survival has changed because of these creatures." Their sensors beeped quietly. The shark was approaching. As they watched, a huge shape emerged from the darkness. The ancient shark moved slowly through the water, its gray skin bearing the marks of centuries. Small fish swam around it, just as they had done for hundreds of years. "Look at its eye," Yunho whispered. The shark's small eyes seemed to glow slightly in their dim lights. "Our scientists confirmed something amazing last week. The proteins in their eyes barely change over centuries. It's seeing us with the same eyes that watched wooden sailing ships pass overhead hundreds of years ago." Sun Le carefully recorded readings from their instruments. "You know what's really wonderful?" she asked. "We've learned that these sharks pass down their knowledge through generations. The way they swim, where they feed, how they handle the pressure. It's all taught from the older sharks to the younger ones. They're not just old, they're wise." The new research center had already made many discoveries. They had found more ancient creatures in Earth's oceans, each with its own amazing story. But the Greenland sharks remained special. They had changed how the whole galaxy thought about life, survival, and success. The fleet reports that other worlds are changing how they study their oceans, Yunha said, watching the old shark glide past their window. Instead of looking for the fastest growing or most active creatures, they're now searching for the quiet ones, the slow ones, the ones that have survived for centuries. Sun smiled. "Sometimes the greatest wisdom comes from the most unexpected places. We thought we had to reach for the stars to find amazing things, but they were here in our oceans all along." As they watched, the ancient shark slowly disappeared back into the dark waters. It would continue its peaceful journey through time, carrying centuries of wisdom in its small, ancient eyes. Thanks to Earth's remarkable oceans and their incredible creatures, beings across the galaxy were learning that true greatness wasn't about being the biggest or fastest or most advanced. Sometimes it was about having the patience to grow slowly, the wisdom to adapt perfectly, and the strength to endure through time.